Hey everyone, welcome back again to the Iconist Podcast, Season 2, Year 2. We are back. Bow! I'm one of your hosts, Barry 3D, for Deep Dark Delicious. Hey, on my side is the man, the myth, the legend, the one that rocks the turntables back and forth, one of my best friends and my cousin. Who am I talking about?
DJ Rod C. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode. We are back. We're back. Before we get into the, I'm so excited. I'm just pulling it in.
Yeah.
You know, this is the time I wish you had a digital type of blanket just kind of like covered, like, you can't see. He's already on stage, but shh, we won't say who it is yet.
Right? Oh, I can work that. Don't worry, I got that covered. Don't worry about that.
I know that.
Right. And
right, let's do the normals.
Yeah, so one quick shout out, really quick, is Jaybird Digital Arts. If you like the template here and you want to have template, social media, digital media, all that stuff from posters to whatever online, reach out to the one and only. Who am I talking about, Rod? Let him know.
Jaybird Digital Arts.
That's right. If you reach out to Jaybird Digital Arts, you tell him you heard about it on the Iconist Podcast and you need any work done, he will give you a discount. What? Nothing wrong with saving some money, people. There we go. I know we have a third window, and I want to reveal this window right now in a couple of seconds when all is said and done. The icon is today on the Iconist Podcast, The Nightman by Malibu Comics, live TV show. And it's our pleasure to introduce my best friend, Derwin Jordan.
He's here, people. He's here.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Happy to be on the Iconic Show. Oh my God, I've watched a few episodes. I mean, these guys, they're rocking it. They're killing it. When they came to me and said, hey, we want to do something on Nightman. We want to bring you on. I'm like, yes, let's do this thing. Come on now.
Back. Okay. So, I'm tearing up. Derwin, so happy to have you on the show, and we talked about this. And I said this is like childhood best friend from when we was yee-high. So from boys to men, literally. Don't come at me, Michael Bivins. It's all good. So we had to have Derwin on because we wanted to talk about Nightman. And if you watch the TV show Nightman in its full run, there was a change in season 1 to 2, and in season 2. Derwin was the tech guy. Do you remember your character's name, Derwin?
Well, funnily enough, his first name was Raleigh, and his last name was actually Jordan, which was just hilarious. That was purely happenstance. But I always said that, when I saw that on the breakdown, I'm like, I'm clearly meant to play this character. Like, clearly I'm meant to play this character. So yeah, he was Raleigh Jordan, tech genius extraordinaire.
Right? Hello, CW. We're looking at you.
We'll start looking back at them again. Okay, no problem. Just letting you guys know. We're watching you.
Give the brother a job, right? So Nightman started off as a comic book, and this comic book started off in 1993, and it was, it ran for 23 issues from Malibu Comics, and it was created by the writer, and I just lost his name here because I'm so on top of things. Steve Engelhardt. Thank you. So Steve Engelhardt was the writer who put this character together. He wrote for DC. He's written for Marvel, and he's gone overseas and he's done other projects and books, and he's done some TV work also. But it was nice to see that they took this character who, by day, was a saxophone player in San Francisco, and then at night he was Nightman. So, and we're gonna just go right into Derwin's journey with this, but just give you some history on that. This character came about. And he was in an accident. So he was driving a Miata in San Francisco. I mean, the picture is so clear. And that's all they said in the comic book. He got in an accident. And there was a cable that hit him and it gave this kind of electricity. And it was him and other people on the cable car that got their power. So it's almost like the Flash with that meta effect that happened where certain people got their powers. So he was in a coma for a couple of weeks, came out of it. He had a little bit of shrapnel in his head. Doctors didn't think he was going to make it, but he survived. And his power was he was able to sense people's evil thoughts, right? But also the other side effect is he had to always wear sunglasses because his pupils were dilated. So he had pretty much night vision. And walking out of the hospital, he had a thought of someone saying, oh, I'm going to kill this girl. And this is what started him on his journey to become a hero. He's like, well, I can't let this go. And he tried to talk to the police about this, and they didn't believe him. Like, okay, so did the guy say it? Well, no. Like, I heard it in my... Okay, never mind.
Right.
This is already weird in San Francisco as it is. Right? And he decided to take it on himself to stop this girl from getting murdered. He didn't know who this girl was. But that's how the journey of Nightman started. And then during this outing, he was all in black with a mask, and he had goggles on, and then the mask gets ripped. So it opened up from his nose to his mouth. One eye was exposed. The other eye had a goggle still on it. And this kind of parlayed into his look later on in the costume with Malibu Comics. Mm-hmm. And to show you the connection with Marvel was he did team up. He did team up at one point because there was a whole event called Black September where they brought the Malibu characters into the Marvel Universe. So Nightman did team up with Wolverine. Nightman did team up with Gambit from the X-Men, obviously. He also made an appearance on the TV show, the cartoon,
Ultra Force,
right? Exactly, because it was the Ultra verse that they were doing at one point. But of course, due to logistics and who has what rights, it never was able to continue past that. But then the kick in the head is here I am watching TV, minding my own business. Right. And of course, now back then in the 90s, you had to look at what we had as superhero shows in the 90s. So if you were in the culture, you would just say, oh, there's a superhero show. Okay. And I would sit there and watch it. And season 1, I'm like, okay, cool. And then this man calls me up and says, hey, man, I'm going to be on TV. And I'm like, okay, yeah, filming in Vancouver. I'm like, okay, cool. Good on you, D. And he's like, what are you doing? Nightman. I'm like, wait a minute. You mean that show with the superhero, the saxophone player? He goes, yep. And I'm like, oh, okay. Small role. He goes, nope. And sure enough, boom, you're the tech guy.
That is correct. Yeah, it was a crazy time. I mean, I remember, I was back in Toronto and I'd been auditioning, and the week that this happened was insane. I'd kind of been, struggling a little bit as an actor, and hadn't booked anything in a while. And I had been up for a number of series before that, and had kept coming close. Didn't book them. There's actually one that happened around the same time called The Raven. I don't know if you remember that when that came out.
Yeah.
And I was up for, one of the leads in that. And then that didn't happen. I was like, oh, man. And I actually literally thought, maybe I'm not meant to be a regular series lead. Like maybe I'm just going to keep playing these, 1 day, 2 day, 4 day things. And that's going to be my thing. I'm just going to kind of grind it out and go. So this week comes up and my agent calls and she goes, it was a Tuesday. Well, she called me on the Monday. She's like, I've got 4 auditions for you tomorrow. Like it was just banging. Like there was so much stuff going on. She goes, I'm going to fax you all the stuff because that's how long ago it was. We used to fax everything. And the fax thing has a whole other significance to this story too. So she faxes me all the sides for all this stuff. And I'm like going crazy, like learning all the lines and, pre-creating the characters and doing this stuff. And throughout the day, Nightman was going to be the last of the 4 auditions that day. So I had one at like 10, I had one at like 12:30, I had one at like 2:30, and then Nightman was at like 4:15, and like here, there, and everywhere all over the city in Toronto. So I'm like jumping on the metro and doing the thing and on the subway and going here, there. And by the time I got to the Nightman audition, I was exhausted. I was like just exhausted because I'd been doing all these other things. So I do the audition. It's just me and the casting director in the room. I do the audition, and it's funny too, because, I finished and I looked up at her and she kind of had this look on her face, and I actually took that look like, man, that must have sucked. So I was like, hey, John, thanks for bringing me in, man. Appreciate you, whatnot. And he's like, okay, Derwin, yeah, thanks, man. I was like, okay. And I literally put it out of my head. I'm like, I am not booking that one. The next day I had another 2 auditions. I had a play audition, then an audition for a movie. So it was a crazy week. I had been working in customer service in this medical clinic, and stuff. So I'm at work on the Friday of that week. And while I'm at work, one of the other customer service agents taps me on the shoulder. She's like, Derwin, I think I have your agent on the line. I'm like, what? She's like, Nancy Lippier? I said, yeah. She's like, yeah, I've got her on the line. I'll transfer over to your call. I was like, okay. I was like, hey, Nance, what's up? And this is like, I had a cell phone, but this wasn't like, it wasn't glued to my head like they are now. Cell phones, like I tried to call me on my cell. It was like in my backpack, and I didn't even, think about trying to get it. So she's like, hey, Derwin, so guess what? we have an offer for you to do Nightman. And to be honest, like that week was so crazy, I didn't even remember what it was. I'm like, Nightman, refresh me on that. She's like, oh, you had that on Tuesday. I'm like, Nancy, I had 4 auditions on Tuesday. Give me something more. This was like the superhero action adventure show. I'm like, really? She's like, yeah. So they called this morning. They liked your stuff, and they're going to make you an offer, on this show. And I said, okay, all right. Well, you're my agent. This is what you do. She goes, here's the kicker though. And it's Friday. She goes, if this comes through and the contract is all good, you need to leave for Vancouver on Tuesday of next week.
And this is Friday.
And it's Friday. And I'm like, oh, snap. I said, okay. I said, well, and I'm in my head, I'm like, okay, whatever. This is so not going to happen. They're going to book somebody local or whatnot. So, okay. It's like, great. So we hang up. About an hour or two goes by. She calls me back. She goes, hey, we have their offer. I'm like, okay, cool. So she starts breaking everything down. And this is like, no joke. I actually still have the facsimile of the contract somewhere in my files.
Nice.
Like, this is the best contract I have ever seen. Like, they're going to fly me out. They're going to give me first class plane tickets back and forth to Toronto. So if I want to come back and do stuff, they're going to put me up for the first 2 weeks. And they're going to pay me a relocation fee so I can find a place to live. They're going to give me a rental car while I'm out there. Like, I mean, this was like, I'm like, this is what? We got to stop. This can't be real. So she breaks it all down. She breaks down how much money they're going to pay me per episode and stuff like that. And I'm like, yes, let's do this. She goes, hold up. And my agent, like, she's been around for a long time. She goes, hold up. She said, this is great. I like what they're offering. But we're going to go in and ask for more. And I'm like, we're going to do what now?
Nance, you're playing with me now. Don't rock the boat, Nancy. Don't rock the boat.
I'm like, you realize you called me at my day job, right?
Exactly. Like you're calling me at my side job. Like you know that, right?
Yeah.
So she said, this is what we do. We negotiate. We go back and forth. I said, okay. I said, Nancy, I trust you, but if you mess this up, I'm gonna find you. I will hunt you down and I will take you out. She's like, okay, no. I said, we'll probably negotiate it through the weekend. I'll call you. I'll let you know what's going on. Blah, blah, blah. So we hang up. I finish my shift of the thing and I don't hear back from her. This is Friday night. Saturday, nothing. Sunday, nothing. I thought, she asked for too much. They pulled the thing. It's just gone. It's not happening. They're gone with somebody else.
Right.
Dang it, she should have just gone with that original offer. Monday, the agency opens at like 9:00. 9:01, she gives me a call. She goes, Derwin, we have an offer. She said, I'm going to fax it over to you. Again, with the fax. So I'm going to fax it over to you. I said, okay. She says, but when I fax it over to you, I want you to look at the timestamp of when they sent it to us. And I'm like, okay. So she sends a fax. I swear to God, the slowest receiving fax. I'm like, come on,
print line per line.
So it finally comes all the way through. I'm reading it through. They've given us everything that she asked for when she pushed back. And then the agency closes at 6 p.m. on days. The timestamp on the fax they sent to her is 6:07 Friday. So it's been sitting on the fax machine at the agency all weekend long while I'm freaking out at home. Sweating buckets, thinking this deal didn't happen. And it's been sitting there all weekend. But now here's the thing. Now it's Monday. I travel the next day.
Right.
So my phone is now blowing up with the assistants calling me and the producers like, hey, Derwin, congratulations. Glad you're on board, blah, blah, blah. And now I got to pack.
Thanks for the job.
Family and friends know that I'm leaving. And
letting work know I won't be in for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I literally have to quit my job. Like, I'm supposed to be going in that day, and I go, I'm not coming in. I'm actually done. And they're like, hey, man, congratulations. That's great. Good for you. So I get all packed up. I literally get on a plane, the next day, fly out to Vancouver. They fly me out business class. I get there. There's a guy with a little sign with my name on it, at the airport saying, hey, I'm your driver. I'm going to take you over to the hotel, get to the hotel. And literally, because there's a 3-hour time difference.
Right.
I think I landed in Vancouver at like 7 p.m. and I hadn't slept really the night before because I'm packing, I'm doing all the stuff, and whatnot. So I get there, the executive producer calls me, goes, "Hey, we're going to have a little dinner with you and the other people, the other leads on the show," stuff like that. I say, yeah, cool. Go and do that. And I'm like literally during the dinner going, "Oh, man." Wait, come on, man.
Like, we're all so excited to be here. We're so excited to be here. Derwin?
Yeah.
Like I was just like an adrenaline rush and the high and stuff. So, I got there, we do that. We have we get onto the set, we do the pre-test, we went and did our physical, got us set up in our places, got our rental cars, all that kind of stuff. So now we're there. And this was in the era of, they don't really do this anymore, right? Syndicated TV. Mm-hmm. So this was going to be a guaranteed 22 episodes that we're going to be shooting, as opposed to network TV now, where it's like you're going to shoot 6 or 7, and then if people like it, maybe you'll shoot more. We'll see whatnot. People like Netflix and stuff is similar. Like Netflix is going to shoot what it shoots, but usually you're getting maybe 8 to 12 episods, right? Out of a Netflix show, right, per season. Whereas back then, like I said, syndicated, you got your 22. It's sold internationally. It's just done, right? You're booked.
You're good. Good.
So he's like, the producer's like, we're going to be here for the next, 6.5 months. And we're going to shoot all 22. We're going to put them out there, and we're going to go. And, as I started to find out about it, I didn't realize it was the second season of this show.
Oh, so you weren't aware.
I wasn't aware at all because I didn't see the show in the first season.
Right.
So I'm getting to set and they're like, "Hey, we're happy to have you on board." And it's funny too, because they actually gave me some of the clothes of the guy who played it the year before, so the shoes, and he's a little taller than I am, a little bigger than I am. Yeah. So it's like, I'm trying on the shoes. I'm like, these are a little big. Like, yeah, no, they'll be good. Like, okay, they don't really fit my feet, but okay, whatever.
Right.
If you say so.
You look like Mace from P. Diddy with the oversized clothes.
You know what I mean? So, everything else got to fit, but it's like, there were certain things that's like, all right. So we get there, and like I said, it was a phenomenal experience. I was so excited to be, a series regular. I felt the role really spoke to me. Doing that kind of tech, jargon stuff is really in my wheelhouse. Yes. Of doing that kind of stuff, So, I got to, set the first day. And, the funny thing is that, Matt McComb played Nightman. Right. And the TV show was created by Glenn A. Larson, who was, his claim to fame is Knight Rider. Right. Yes. Like that was his thing. And Matt was actually David Hasselhoff's stunt double on Knight Rider. How he came to get to know Glenn and get that sort of going. Well, they'd been talking about doing something together since he was on that. And Matt wasn't really an actor, but he said he wanted to. And Glenn was like, "Hey, I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to do this, for you." Well, there's Matt, and then Matt's stunt double, Dalton Roy is his name. No joke, like identical twins. Wow. So I'm all excited to be on the show. And of course I meet Matt, and whatnot. And we're chatting and stuff. And what I didn't know is that in the first season, the guy who played Raleigh, Matt and he had become quite close and quite good friends. So Matt was really upset. The show shot in San Diego the first season. Right. And then they moved the second season to Vancouver. Right. So Matt was actually really upset that they moved the show out of the US, and, his friend who had made on the show wasn't going to be part of it anymore, and all this kind of stuff. So there was this shield, happening. Dalton, nicest guy in the world. So the first day I couldn't really tell them apart. Like that they look like. So, Matt's like this, like cold as ice, dude. I was like, okay, I don't know what's up with that. And then I see Dalton. I'm like, "Hey, what's going on, man?" He's like, "Hey, how are you?" And I'm like, "Okay, hey, this guy's kind of cool." And then I run into Matt again, and it's like cold as ice. I'm like, "What's happening?"
Max and Zaymar.
Like, is it me?
Facts.
And then finally, like literally the catering person's like, "They're two different people, right?" And I'm like, "What?" He goes, "That's Matt's stunt double, Dalton." And that's Matt. And I was like, now it's all making sense. But I was just, I was so young and excited and whatnot.
You just thought dude was bipolar.
I thought like I'm going crazy here because like one minute he's like nice as anything to me, and the next minute it's like I'm not even, there. And my whole thing though with the show was like I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna do the work, I'm gonna make sure that I'm prepared every day when I show up. The crew was phenomenal, they were so good. To me and so nice to me. And it was just, it was a phenomenal success. But that's how that show came about, that literally within a week of being a struggling actor to moving across the country and being a series lead and being a series regular. Yeah, it was
That's
insane.
big, man.
It was insane. Like, it was life changing. It was absolutely
that I could see, because I know from myself on the other side of it, it was seeing you every week on TV, and I mean, you know, your friendships, you get, you know, everyone's got their life path and all that, but it still made me connected to say, there's my brethren. That's my movie there.
Right.
Okay. All right. And
I know him. I know him.
You know, and that was the beauty of it. But I know, and then you gave me some good tidbits. Like one of, and maybe I'm wrong, or correct me. So was it the lead person who played Nightman? It's Matt, right?
Yeah, Matt.
Wasn't he also in the Matrix movies?
Yes. So he, again, after he finished Nightman and stuff like that, he went back to doing stunts. But he was one of the main agents, besides the main agent, who you would see a ton of in the Matrix movies. So yes, that totally was Matt. You know,
right. Okay.
movies.
Okay. So yeah. So you had Mr. Smith, or Agent Smith, right?
Agent Smith.
He was one of the other two agents. I was always behind him.
Yep.
That was
really?
Yeah,
I see it now.
Totally Matt.
I see it now.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And it's so funny. He went back to doing stunt work mostly after, you know, Nightman and stuff like that. Didn't, you know, acting really wasn't for him.
Right.
You know, and stuff. But yeah, that was it. And it's funny. Like, I remember when I got that show too. I mean, you are comic book, you know, mecca god. Like, you know,
because
so
I don't have a
when
life.
I got the show, I knew nothing about this.
Right.
And finally, when I got a little settled, I remember, you know, calling you, going, "Dude, this is happening." And you were like, "Oh my God!" I'm like, "Okay, tell me." I need
true,
your
though.
expertise here, man. I need your insight here, because I am, you know, I can say the words.
It is true. I remember the running joke at the time was, I would always say, "Is like, Derwin, you're not a real actor until you do Power Rangers." Right? You gotta be.
He'll say that for now. He'll still say that to now. Let's be facts. Let's be facts.
No, and that's how we kid each other. But I would say that because I knew at the time, at the pulse of the level of acceptance with like action superhero movies, it was growing. Anything along that genre was growing, and because it wasn't as much. I mean, if you look at it now, you turn on TV, any social media, you go on YouTube, you go streaming services, there's superhero related content all over. So right now, it's trying to fight to bring out quality stuff, you know, to capture that fan base. But you're looking back then in the 90s, right? Early 90s, there wasn't that much that we had on TV and what I was trying, you know, and maybe I didn't articulate it well, but at the time, but picture it, comic books. So you're looking at DC, you're looking at Marvel, you're looking at all the independents. It's $1 billion industry, right? So anytime something came out, regardless of which House of Ideas came out with it, the fans would flock to it because that's all we had, right? So we had like the 1977 live action Spider-Man, you know, everyone was like, Spider-Man's live action. Watch it. Doesn't matter if the episodes were mediocre or not. We were there. You know, it was like Lord of the Rings. Like, we'll build it, they will come. We were there as hardcore fans. So anytime we got a taste of that, it added more to the genre. So Nightman being part of Malibu Comics and then acquired by Marvel Comics, and it's like, well, we're gonna take this comic book and we're gonna put it on TV. All right, we watch it, right? And that's and I mean, you know, if you look at it back then. And especially, you mentioned a couple of key things. So filming in Vancouver, CW pretty much is running all over Vancouver, right? Because that's with Arrow was filmed in Vancouver. Flash is filmed in Vancouver. What am I missing?
Is Legend Legends of Tomorrow? Supergirl's Legend of Tomorrow.
Yeah, DC Legends of Tomorrow, Vancouver. Supergirl filmed in Vancouver. All those shows that you see, those superhero shows, they're all filming in Vancouver. American productions, but that's where they're filming. And I'm like, so Nightman was way ahead of that at the time, right? And I know, you know, I know you've done other projects too that I've seen you on, and every time I see you, I'm like, So, you know, I know you did an episode on Mutant X. Right?
That's right. Yeah.
You know, and I remember your character had something with his ears, like, you know, with sound or something. So
it's like supersonic hearing, you know, like literally could hear through walls and stuff and hear stuff miles away, you know, and whatnot. So that was a big one too, for sure.
Right. And once again, that's another Marvel property, you know, Mutant X. So, you know, with Nightman, it was interesting, I said, to see you on there, that you had a good chunk of a major part on there. And you know, from your perspective, so for you walking into it, you didn't realize at the time there was a season 1, and I get that because at the time, for what we had on TV, we had like what a couple of channels, and then you had to catch it or not, and that was it.
Right, that's it.
The superhero genre stuff was very sporadic. It wasn't like Saturday morning cartoons where it was like, here's the Super Friends, Batman Adventures, Superman Adventures, block, Tarzan Adventure, block. No, it was okay. You got Nightman. Oh yeah, and then maybe another season of Automan, and maybe
all over the place.
Manimal, right?
Yeah.
And what was cool is like Steve Engelhardt, who was creator. I know he wrote 3 episodes of Nightman. I'm not sure which ones he did, but I know he did 3 episodes of Nightman. And then doing some research on that, we talked about this before. The interesting thing is they brought in one of the other characters that kind of opened up that universe. They brought in Manimal.
That's right.
Crossover.
Yeah.
And this is what fans live for.
I remember that when they brought him in.
Yeah. So from what you remember, and I know this, we're going back, right? We're touching the gray matter. Which do you remember, like the storylines? Is there a particular storyline or episode that stood out to you that you were on for whatever reason? Be it if it was the script, it was something behind the scenes, how it was perceived by the crowd.
It's funny. I feel like I look back. I mean, that show, I shot that show in 1999, which is insane to me that was 20 something years ago. Like that's what. But I feel like, but there's parts of me that feels like it was like just yesterday sometimes, right? With it, and I think it's because it was such a monumental shift and experience for me that it lives with me constantly. And I wish there was an actress who came on the show. She was a model who turned actress. Her name was Monica Schnarr. I don't know if you remember her at all. Blonde, tall. She came on in our 2nd episode. To do a guest spot. And she was like, I wish I could remember her character name, but she was like an alien who'd come down. She also had powers and whatnot, and ends up teaming up with Nightman to do stuff. And Monica and I really hit it off, and stuff like that. We realized we had a lot in common. She was great on the show. We really chatted, and they ended up bringing her back at least, I think, twice more on the show. And the shows with her, and that character really popped. For me, like those were the ones that really, stuck, with me. There was that. And then there was, in the show, like you said, Johnny's, Matt's character, Johnny, is a saxophone player, and we have a nightclub, that's our front. It's that, by regular hours, we're these, nightclub owners, and he plays a nightclub, and by, behind the stage is my tech room and like all this kind of stuff. But we'd have all of these local guest singers come in, to be on the show, in the nightclub, which was great because it gave them an opportunity for some exposure. We got some great music out of it. And one of the people who came on to do it and ended up becoming my love interest on the show was Saskia Garrell. I don't know if you remember the duo Love and Sass.
Yes.
That was Saskia Garrell with Sass, on that. So she ended up coming on the show.
Wow.
And like I said, usually we had a different singer come on every episode. She came in like episode, I want to say maybe 16 or 17. And we hit it off so much and they loved her so much that she ended up being the singer for the rest of the series.
Right.
On that. So those episodes were pretty amazing, as well. But yeah, the ones with Monica, like I said, I wish I could remember her character's name. It was like one of those alien, stuff like that. But it was, she was, those ones really, stood out to me, when we did them. And then the last one for me is, every one of those shows, it's a money thing, right? They're trying to save some money. So they do a clip show. Right. So it literally is like you only shoot maybe 6 or 7 live scenes and then it flashes back to something that's already been shot because it just is saving money. Right. I just remember I'd never done one before. And Alan Eastman, who was the executive producer on the show, he goes, Derwin, you got to get the look. I said, what are you talking about? He goes, you're going to say the line like, hey, man, remember when we did blah, blah, blah? And then you got to look into camera so that when the camera pushes in, it's like it's going into your memory. And then so you got to get that look that you're remembering what happened, so we can cut to something else. And it became this running joke of, I'm like, hey, yeah, Johnny, man, remember when, blah, blah, blah came on? And the camera would
I've seen
in.
it.
And then we'd cut to the next thing, and it's like because we did that like take after take after take, right? It's like, yeah, hey, yeah. Bryony, who was like Jane Heitmeyer, who played the cop on the show, I think we lost Rod.
We lost Rod. It's okay. He'll bounce back in. His internet froze.
Yeah, Jane Heitmeyer, who played Bryony Bronk on the show, who was like the cop who didn't know we were friends. We were friends outside of Nightman, but she didn't know he was Nightman. So she was always battling, this, vigilante that she called him and stuff like that. And I remember it's like, hey, Bryony, remember when we did that thing? It's like, and that look constantly, like that was the thing with the clip shows. It was the funniest thing. So yeah, we ended up doing 2 clip shows, that we shot 2 clip shows in the episode. And it was like we shot one in like episode 17, and then episode 21 was our clip show, shoot. So yeah, so it was, those, like I said, those are the ones that stand out to me. But I say that whole series, like I seriously, no joke, I could recount probably almost every episode of that show because it was such a huge shift, for me. Right. Such a great opportunity. And part of it too is that, as I mentioned, Matt wasn't very happy that the show had moved out from the US and into Canada. Right. And stuff. So it wasn't terribly cooperative, all the time. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I came in like, morning, everybody. How you doing? What's going on? What's going on? And I came in with, I had my stuff ready. I was prepared. I was ready to go. So literally the writers, after about the 3rd episode, went, well, if he's not going to do stuff, let's just write more for Derwin's character. Let's write more for Raleigh. So I kept getting more and more stuff to do, on the show. Because originally, my character wasn't supposed to be seen because it's supposed to be background, right. And we were supposed to be, hiding out. The first season, my character stole military secrets, which is the tech in Nightman's suit.
Right. Yes.
I realized the government was selling it for bad, and I was like, I want to use it for good, stuff. But obviously, I'm on the run from the military. But they ended up kind of being able to expand that, and going, okay, we're gonna, I was now the manager of the nightclub, and running that kind of thing, and all this. They kept adding stuff because I was excited to be there, and I came in prepared to work. So I mean, it's a real testament that you go in and you do your work, it's going to
things pay off.
Exactly, to provide opportunities, for you. But yeah, that was, like I said, that was massive, for me. That was such a great time, and I loved Vancouver. Like Vancouver was the first time I'd ever gone out there,
right?
And it was amazing. I mean, it's what made me want to move to the West Coast.
Okay.
I spent those 6 months in Vancouver, and I went, right. Oh, December's not so bad here.
Yeah, coming from Montreal, right? I get you,
right?
And that's the thing. And even with Nightman, once again, what I say, it was ahead of time, because if we look at, for example, you watch Arrow on the CW, right? Mm-hmm. With Stephen Amell. Once again, what happened? He was as the series progressed, they were, his sister owned a nightclub, and their headquarters was in the basement of the nightclub.
Mm-hmm. Where have we seen that before?
I'm not sure where that I filmed in Vancouver, huh? Superhero show. Guy running around at night, vigilante, then headquarters in a nightclub. Huh. Okay.
Right. Right. Well, I knew too. I mean, because they were shooting a Stargate at the time as well. In Vancouver. Like that was shooting out there, as well. And that was kind of like one of the first sci-fi shows that Vancouver took on. And they realized that the guys out there did it really well. Right. The crews out there understood how to shoot that kind of stuff, as well. So when we came along with Nightman, we were still the experiment to a certain degree, but I mean, that crew was proficient, and they were shooting in HD back then, which was, this was 1999. Cause I remember, Doug, who was our camera operator, would always be like, the director would be like, hey, is this in the shot? He goes, it's in the shot in HD. So it's like we shot standard definition, but they had shot in high def as well, just in case they were in a market that they could shoot it that way. So he's like in HD, it's in frame,
right? Because you got more area you're able to cover.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. You're covering more area. So it's just wild to me that you look at it now. I mean, now we've got Ultra HD and 4 HD and 4K and all this kind of stuff. But back in 1999, they were already thinking about shooting in high definition and that wider screen. So it was really at the forefront of that kind of stuff.
So this was really a good experience for you. I mean, I know it was. I'm not even questioning that. Not even a question. I know. I mean, because how the whole thing came about, how the contract came about. So now here's, and Rod's going to jump back in. He lost his internet at his house. So this is what happens when you do things remotely, and it's ups and downs. Technology.
Technology.
Was there ever talk of a season 3? Did you know when you did season 2 that it was going to be season 2 and that was going to be it for the show, or was there talk or possibility of continuing to a season 3? Did you hear any rumblings about that at the time before?
They totally wanted to go again. I mean, we had a great time, and I actually made the assumption that we were going again. To be honest with you. I mean, because you look at, again, most of those syndicated shows, most of them ran at least 3 or 4 years at the very least. I mean, you get, the Xenas and the Hercules that ran for like, 7, 8, 9 years.
Right.
And so the most, Stargate ran for like 10 years, 12 years or something like that.
I don't know. Is it still going? I think it's still going.
But like, seriously, like it was insane. Like Andromeda, when it came after us, that ran for like 4 or 5 seasons, and stuff. So yeah, there was definitely, the idea was, because my contract too was for 2 more seasons after. So it was a 3-season commitment. Okay. With the contract, when I went in. So when we finished shooting that first season, the crew was like, hey, what are you hearing? I said, oh, we got to be coming back. I mean, we did well. We shot this really well and stuff like that. And I said, we got to be coming back. And they were like, I said, I haven't heard, but I know that they wanted to. Mm-hmm. So I came back to Toronto after the show was done, because I was actually going to be doing a play. And actually worked out really well. Like the play, Andrew Moody, a good friend of mine, had written this play called Con Man's Guide to Loving Women. Fabulous play. I'd workshopped it years before. We finally got it where it was going to run at the National Arts Centre in Ottawa and then at Canadian Stage in Toronto. And when I booked Nightman, Andrew calls me and goes, and I'm not going to say it because it was it's not appropriate for PG. He's like, I can't believe you booked this series and you're not going to be able to do my play. I said, actually, as a matter of fact, because the play was going to be running from rehearsal started mid to late January, and the play was going to be done running by like the beginning of May. Mm-hmm. I said, Andrew, that's my off season. I said, if the show comes back, we're not going to start shooting it until like end of May, beginning of June. I said, I finished in December. I'll be off until like May or June. I said, it's perfect. I'll come back. I'll do the play, and then I'll jet back out to Vancouver and do the next season of Nightman. He's like, what? I said, I want to do your show, man. Like, let's do it. So I came back to Toronto. I started rehearsing. Con Man's Guide was doing it. And then, it was mid to late March, maybe, when, Alan Eastman called me and goes, Derwin, sorry, man, we're not coming back. And I was devastated. I was like, what? He goes, yeah. He goes, the network looked at it, and, we're looking at stuff, and they're looking at trying to do some other stuff. So unfortunately, we're you're going to get your 1 season, but that's all we're doing. And I was like, oh, man, like I was a little thrown by that. I was really hoping for at least 1 more season, because I felt like that first season for me was, finding my bearings, getting my feet wet. I felt like if we came back for second season, I was going to ask them maybe direct a couple of episodes.
Oh, really? Okay, you're going
that. And it's like I was, it's like now I understand how it works. I understand how the show works. I'm in it. I understand the rhythm. Let's up the ante, on this one. I really took that time in that first season. Like I was always on set, I had a trailer that I could go back to, and stuff. And it's like, when I wasn't shooting scenes, like I was on set because I wanted to, see how, being a, series regular worked and how everything worked. Cause I wanted to move to the next level. I mean, the director.
Yeah, but that's you though. That's something I'm not surprised by that at all.
Yeah, no, I was always, always there. And I remember the assistant director would be like, Derwin, aren't you tired? Do you want to go back to your trailer and stuff? I said, no, man, I'm like, I want to be right here. Like I want to be, be behind the camera and stuff. Like, what are you doing there? What are you shooting there? What's your frame? What's your, what are you doing for lighting and stuff like that? And they actually were really great with me because I was a student, and they were very accommodating to be like, hey, I'm using this frame. The director was like, hey, I'm using this framing because, this is the shot we're trying to do. And I'm using this framing because of this and whatnot. So yeah, so that was great. So I was hoping, like I said, if we got a second season, that now I'd be able to kind of jump in and really, take hold of it. So I was disappointed when it didn't come back. But yeah, there was definitely talk that we would come back for at least 1 more. But like I said, I was contracted for 3. So that first season and then 2 more after that was my contractual obligation. So,
okay. Well, first of all, welcome back, Rod.
Welcome back, Rod.
Technology.
I apologize. Technology, indeed. I do apologize, everyone.
It's all good, man. Continue. So hold on. So now you're saying, and so I want to make sure I got this straight, Derwin. So you're saying that you signed, your contract was possibly for 3 seasons. So that means you would have done season 2, 3, and 4.
Exactly.
So there could have been possibly 4 seasons of Nightman. That's what they're looking at in the future.
And beyond potentially, like because they want to lock you in, right? Like the thing with most series when you book them is that they're going to book you for at least 3 years. Usually it's 3 to 5 years, right? Because they don't want to book you for a year, and then if the show's going to go again, if they don't have you locked in, then you're free negotiating, right? And what if you book something else? You book something that potentially is better. Now they've really got to up the ante as far as like money and perks and all that kind of stuff. So they try and lock you in early. And then that's why, like, when you look at all these contracts, like, Friends and Seinfeld and all that kind of stuff, it's like, it's their, Big Bang Theory, all that kind of stuff. It's like you get to that third season where that initial contract is running out, and it's like, all right, here we go. It's like, you kind of got me for free,
but now I got the money.
But now
I know my worth. I know my worth.
Yeah, now let's go. Let's put dollars to donuts here. So that's what they lock you in. Like I said, for those those first 3 years or so.
Right.
So they know that they can keep coming back, and then often if shows know they're coming. Like if you go to a second or a third season, now they're going to negotiate you through seasons 5 and 6, as well, because again, they want to just keep that role, going over and over. And then, get to Grey's Anatomy territory where you're in like season 19, Law and Order, and stuff. Now most of them are just, negotiating year to year, because those actors are like, they may want to step out. At some point. I mean, you've been doing it for 20 years. I can understand that. I mean, Mariska Hargitay on, Law and Order Special Victims Unit. I mean, that's 26 years,
right?
27 years. I think she's been on that show, which is that's insane to me.
At this point, just make her executive producer.
Right, you know what I mean? Like, seriously, like, she runs that. She can run that show all by herself. She's like, okay, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this, let's take those takes, let's shoot this. Like, I mean, that's a job.
yeah, absolutely.
Like,
so
that's a job.
So here's some other questions for you. So so now I know, possibility could have gone longer, right?
Mm-hmm.
We know there's a comic book behind it. Mm-hmm. Now, generally speaking, usually when these shows come out, there's always some type of merchandising. Was there any type of talk about maybe having any kind of merchandise, be it if it's going to be figures, T-shirts, whatever, from Nightman outside of the comic book, just like based on the show? Did anyone talk to you about that at all? Or is that any kind of rumble?
Me about it. I think the Nightman character had, I think there was a doll. I think there was an action figure, for Nightman. But I think that was it, especially because, again, even though my character was around for both seasons, because a different actor played it. And then the second season that we did, most of the characters who were in the first season, they scrapped. The only person they brought back, like I said, they brought my character back, but a different actor. Yeah. And they brought back the guy who played Johnny Domino's character's dad.
Yes.
They brought him in, for a few episodes, as well. But everything else was new. So again, I think if we had kept going, there probably would have been more
a chance
that kind of stuff as well. But because I'm pretty sure there's a Nightman action figure out there somewhere, right? With that. So
I believe so. I never checked, but I honestly would believe so. And I'm just saying, these are just general questions that I'm always asking. And I mean, for everyone talking, once again, we're talking about the Nightman TV show where Derwin was part of on season 2. The comic books are still out there. So if you want, go to your comic book stores, support the comic book stores, get the back issues of those books. We're not wrapping up yet. I'm just kind of throwing that out there. And then even looking around, I see Nightman season 1 and 2. You can buy the complete series on Amazon. So, right. That's, so in this day and age, with a lot of the stuff that's going on, I mean, there's the Comic Cons. The Comic Cons are huge, and I've seen actors and wrestlers, everyone getting in there to some degree. Have you ever thought of going in there? Because and I'm tooting your own horn because you don't toot it enough. So right, you've done a series regular on Nightman. Check. You were the villain, one of the villains on Mutant X. Check. I know you played, I think, and you know your roles better than I do. You played like an evil agent or an enemy agent on Nikita at one point. Right?
Yeah,
check.
That's right. Yeah.
Check. Sons of Anarchy season 1. You were in there playing one of the agents. And I know those guys tore around all over the time. I mean, they came just to Hamilton just recently, or Niagara Falls, right? They had for one of the Comic Cons, they brought in the main cast and all that. But you were on there for a good couple episodes. There's no question it was you, right? So, I don't know if you ever thought of looking at some of the Comic Cons and making an appearance there, just to see, because as much as you might not think there's a demand for some of this stuff at times, there is.
Right.
Like for meet and greets. Right?
Well, the funny thing, with that is that I have gotten some bites for, those comic conventions, but not for those shows, but for Jason X.
I was about to say maybe Jason X. You were going down the list. You were getting down the list. I'm thinking, well, there's also Jason X. So that definitely as
That's
well.
an iconic, franchise, and that, Jason X, which was basically Friday the 13th Part 10 in space.
Yes. I saw that in the theater.
Like that's the one. Like I just did an interview a couple months ago with somebody who was like doing something, on the Friday the 13th movies and wants to try and get as many of the characters as possible from those movies, on his show, stuff like that. So that's the one that I have had the thought on. I could probably go. There was supposed to be a convention in Houston a few years back.
Right.
They were like, "Hey, would you be interested in coming out and like doing some sign and stuff like that?" It ended up falling apart and didn't work. It's like, recently they were like, "Oh yeah, we'll fly you out, we'll put you up and stuff like that." It's like, "Oh, well, can you pay for your own flight? Can you pay for your own hotel?" It's like, wait, what? That wasn't the original deal. Hold on a second. So that's the one that if I'm getting any kind of play with, it's usually Jason X. That I get some hits with and stuff. So I mean, it certainly is in the back of my mind. And those things are huge. And it's a great way to connect with people. And it's amazing to me. You don't always realize how much people are watching. Out there, and film lasts forever. So
like, look, even us doing this show here right now, even if you go on YouTube, there's other people that have talked about Nightman, the TV show, right? If you do a search for it, they've talked about Nightman, the TV show, and I'm like, Nightman, but I know Nightman.
Right. Just saying,
right, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So now. Let's say like a little bit of what ifs. Did you have an idea what season 3 would have brought out for your character per se? Did you clearly, season 1 was played by a different actor, right? And he had to be, as you put it, he was on the run, because he stole the military secrets for Nightman's suit. Got it. Season 2, they kind of changed that to give you more visibility and worked the story in that you were running the nightclub. They gave you a love interest. So they're really leaning on you really heavy. So did you hear anything from the writers at the time of saying, if we come back season 3, this is what our vision's going to be it, with your character per se.
Right. Well, it's funny that, you say that too, because one of the things, that they did talk about was, an episode where, Matt's character, Johnny, can't perform his functions, like he's gotten hurt or whatnot, but there's stuff going on in the city. So who jumps in? Raleigh, he designed the suit, right? He knows how it all works, right? He knows how it all goes. So there was definitely talk of, an episode or 2 of Raleigh being the Nightman, which I think would have been insane and crazy and great. But there was definitely, talk of, I remember, Alan would joke, he goes, season 3, suit up.
Right. Okay. See, now that brings me back, because that's like the Iron Man movies where they're bringing in Don Chino to, and I mean, first it was Terrence Howard to be War Machine. Like, brother, you were that close.
That close.
That close. Wow.
Yeah. So there was definitely talk of playing that aspect of it, that every now and then Raleigh has to step in, and be Nightman, because, Matt's either or Johnny's incapacitated or hurt or, something's going on, with Johnny or, but there's stuff going on. There's, evil happening. So somebody has to show up, like the city is waiting for Nightman, to show up and save the day. Right. So somebody's got to be Nightman. So so there was certain talk of, which I think would have been wild, because, as I'm sure you've heard with tons of stuff, like that suit was awful to wear. It was hot, and it's like, this was 1999, right? So the technology wasn't great, for that stuff back then. I mean, that thing, I'm sure was a good 30-40 pounds easily, and stuff. Like, I mean, Matt couldn't wait to get out of it. I mean, when he was in there. So, I mean, as much as I think it would have been a blast, to be in it, I was like, let's see.
Can we do a redesign?
Exactly. Let's modify this for Raleigh. Let's see how this goes. Maybe not as much leather. just a thought. Just a thought.
Awesome. That is so good.
Here's a good question, because I know I dropped off. So hearing that you guys talked about the armor, so I was going to kind of come back to that. I was going to bring that up a bit. Do you remember, in regards to the suit, was there anything particular that you had liked about the suit? Like, in, the different weaponry, the different type of aspect. What was it? Like, I know, like, he had the laser eye, he had the flight, he had the flight belt.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember any of the other functionalities, but he had, you can definitely look down the list and see what else he had. But was there anything that was part of the armor that you had liked, from yourself personally? Mm-hmm. And if you think of what Raleigh would have been like, what would have been one of his favorite attributes for the armor?
Right. Well, what's funny? I mean, I think it was, definitely it was the eye. I think that was one of his, my favorite things with that suit. And what was fun is that the suit was modifiable. In the moment, I remember we had an episode where Nightman has to go into this place, and to get from one place to another, he has to go through this laser field. So Johnny's like, Raleigh, what do I do here? I'm like, hold on, give me a second. And I go into my thing, and I'm taking out this calculator, and I'm taking out this thing. So, okay, dial down your laser function 900 angstroms. Okay, and then dial up your thing 200 amps. And so it's like, so he modifies the laser on his eye to create a wide disbursement. So when he walks through the laser field, it basically rebounds off of him. Right. And it's like that's the capability of the suit. It's like everybody thinks, okay, the laser eye is just this one thing. It's like, wait, hold on, no, we can adjust this for the situation that we're in, right now, to help you, through that. And I remember him going, are you sure this is gonna work? I'm like, yeah, sure.
I'm the guy who made it. Yeah. As per the script, yeah, it works.
Yeah. I mean, if my calculations are correct, it's like, what do you mean if? I'm like, no, my calculations are correct.
Dang it! I'm the one who made the suit. Come on now.
Exactly. It's like, I know this suit.
Trust me.
Yeah. So that was definitely a fun aspect, for me of doing that. Yeah, for sure.
Perfect. All right. So here's my thing, because I'm just looking at the Wikipedia thing again, and I want to make sure. Okay, no, this can't be really. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. No. Even I get surprised, right? I mean, I'm not the end all. I wish I was the end all and know all of everything, but no. So Kelly. Okay. So we know Matt played Johnny, right? Mm-hmm. I know Derek Webster was playing the character you played before.
Yeah, exactly. He played Raleigh the first season. Yeah.
Right. Okay. But then I'm looking at some of the other cast on here, or other actors that have shown up on this show, and I'm like, are we really? I got to go back and watch some of this. So, for example, you have Kim Coates.
Kim Coates played Kieran Keyes. He was like our uber villain, on the show, right? He was the guy that he was our nemesis, right? I think that character did at least 5 or 6 episodes with us, if not more. Yeah. And he had a whole thing where, Kieran Keyes' claim to fame was he created an alternate universe called the Ultra Web. Right. That was supposed to be for good, but he would like suck these people into the ultra web, and like basically steal all their stuff. So that was, we were always battling that. And at one point he gets Johnny's dad into the ultra web, as well. So that was huge for us. But yeah, no, Kim Coates was phenomenal to work with, like so good.
Now, when you worked on, now jumping back and forth. So when you worked on Sons of Anarchy, did you guys remember your time at Nightman, or do you remember you from there, or did you have any?
Well, it's so funny because I got onto Sons of Anarchy and I saw the cast list and I saw that Kim was on the show, and it's like, okay, well, whatever. It's been years since I did Nightman, and I got on the set and he kept going, like he walked by me and he'd be like, go off and come back, and finally he was like, I know you.
Right.
Why do I know you? I said, we've worked together before. He goes, we have, right? I said, yeah. He says, what do we? And he's like, hold on. He's like, and he's thinking. He's like, he goes, oh my God, Nightman. I'm like, correct.
Wow.
Yeah, it totally came back. He goes, Vancouver, Alan Eastman. I'm like, yeah. I said, all that. I said, yeah. He says, yeah, you played the tech guy. He's like, yeah. So that was nice. He said, hey, what, you're here in LA? And I said, yeah, I'm here in LA and I've been here for a few years now and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, he totally, like I said, the first time he saw me, he was like, and he kept walking by and he's like, I know you, man. I know you. Why do I know you? Right. And at the time too, I actually, had dated a very good friend of his. So when I went out to do Nightman, he was like, hey, you're dating, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, we're together. We're living together at the time when I went out to do Nightman and stuff. He's like, oh yeah, I remember, you and she were together and that whole thing. I said, yeah. It's like, that was the deal.
Small world, man.
It was like, seriously, I mean, the acting world is so insular and small. Like it's insane how that, comes around for sure.
Right. See, and now here's another one that stands out to me. Jamie Presley.
Yes, that's right.
Right. Saying here she played Yvette.
Yeah. Now I don't think I had any scenes with her. I feel like because I remember she was on the show and I remember she got cast, but I don't think I had any scenes, with her when she came on to do the show.
Wow. And for anyone that's thinking Jamie Presley, like where do you hear her from? Okay, she was in that TV show My Name is Earl.
My Name is Earl. Yep.
She played his ex-wife. You big dummy. And of course that show's now on Disney Plus. Does that make her a Disney princess? I don't know, but and she also did that movie. What was it? Tekken, I think it was, or one of those like fight game or Virtual Fighter. I think it was Virtual Fighter. That's it, not Tekken. Right. Virtual Fighter. So that's it. And then what's the other one? She's on a TV show right now called Mom or something like that. But yeah, okay, wow. It's just when you look back at the cast, and it's to show you the level of people that were there. It's like at times people probably didn't pay enough attention to it, but the actors were, they've all gone to do different things. Clearly, right?
Yeah. Well, you look at even like Tyler Labine, who came on and did a guest spot with us on the show. Tyler is in like New Amsterdam. Like Tyler does a ton of stuff now, and I see nothing. I'm like, I remember this guy was like this young kid, coming on. There was like a group of three of them who were like these, the young punks, and they had ended up, the alien had come down to get them and all that whole deal. Right. But yeah, now he's working all the time. Wow.
You see, and New Amsterdam has my show, right? And here's another call out for me personally is Patrick McNee.
Yeah, I saw that.
So he's the
Dr. Walter.
Right. He. If you remember, he was. All right, hold on, make sure. Yeah, he was on this TV show, the Avengers.
The Avengers.
Yeah.
Now, right.
Right.
Okay.
So not the Avengers of people. I think the Avengers would, Chris and Tony. No. I'm talking the.
It's the British.
Yeah, from the UK.
From the UK one. Well, you've seen that he was on season 1, so maybe that's the reason why Derwin may not.
Ah, okay. All right.
He was in season 1.
Yeah, so, just once again though, this guy though, man, he's done it all. The Avengers, the New Avengers, View to a Kill, The Howling, right? Okay, it goes on and on. His list goes on, but that is amazing. So now coming to the end, let's just say, I know you had a good time on Nightman, right? Would you, or do you? I mean, as an actor, you're going to always go for any role you can get, and you're going to sink your teeth in. So here, or maybe two questions. So, question number one: going into Nightman, how did you prepare yourself to play the role, right? Because it's not to say that the role was established by you. It was established by another actor. So when you went in there, did you have a mindset to say you kind of had to carry on and then kind of slowly shift it your way? Or did you just walk in and say, well, that's how he played it, I'm going to play it my way, and then that's how your approach was? So what was your approach to playing the character?
Well, I mean, like I said, I didn't have a whole lot of time.
Right?
from the time I found out I got the gig. I mean, literally, it was, like I said, auditioned on the Tuesday, found out the following Monday, left on the Tuesday, and then we were shooting that next Monday. So within 2 weeks, I was on the set shooting the show from the time I had auditioned for it. So not a whole lot of prep time. I think the good thing for me, is that I didn't realize this was a second season for this show, and I hadn't seen the first season of the show. Okay. But what I did ask for was when I got to Vancouver, I asked Alan Eastman, I said, can you send me as many scripts as you can that are ready to go, for this season? And they'd already written about 3 or 4. I said, because I want to see what you're doing, with him, so I can start building, this character. And, funnily enough, I didn't find out, so I think it was like the second or third episode, that there had been a first season of this show. Okay. My character wasn't at all based on what Derek had done in the first season. I just, I created Raleigh based on what I was seeing, in the scripts, and stuff. And the funny thing about that is that, I asked Alan, I said, should I watch, the first season to get it? Once I did find out, I said, should I watch the first season to find out? Since he goes, no, he says, what you're doing you're bringing more life to it than, we could have ever imagined. So keep doing what you're doing. You don't need to reference back to that.
Okay.
However, we were like probably 14 or 15 episodes in. It was Labor Day weekend. I had the weekend off. So I went down to Vegas because it's only like a 2-hour flight from Vancouver to Vegas for that weekend. I'm in my hotel room watching TV, and what comes on? The first season of Nightman. I watched the episode, and it was like, and funnily enough, the first season was actually a little cheesy. They actually really kind of tightened it up in that second season and really kind of revamped it a little bit, even to the sense that they redid the opening sequence.
Yes.
As well from the first season to the second season, because they wanted to make it more, action. And I actually remember when Alan came to me, it was like the 5th episode, and he goes, "We have the new opening sequence." I said, "Oh," he's like, "Yeah." I said, "Come here." So he came to his office, and the first thing he was like, dun, 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 dun. And I'm like, "Ooh."
Okay, we're talking.
I'm like, this.
You got my attention.
This is an action show. Okay, like here we go. And it's like, all the clips and the shots of the, for the opening sequence was great, which we didn't have. They didn't have in that first season. So nothing I did was based on the first season of the previous character.
Okay. So new season, fresh take, got it. Not influenced by the first one, and not because you didn't want to. It was just really because you got in there with such a tight time frame.
Mm-hmm.
You just had to go with what the tools you had on hand and make it your own. So, okay, well, that's good to know, because sometimes people say, "Oh, well, you got to watch the first one to see that go on," or "How come they didn't watch the first one?" But clearly, you would not have had a chance to watch the first one.
Yeah.
It's like you're at the table, like, "I just got here. Time change. What, we're filming when? Tomorrow? I'll be ready."
Mm-hmm. And it's not like today where it's like, they can send it to you.
There you go.
You know what I mean? Like they would have had to pull VHS tape.
Yeah, exactly.
To be able to see, right. So, I mean, that's the deal.
Okay. So here's another one. Did you ever read any of the comic books, either before, during, or after being on the show? Did you ever look at an issue just by fluke to see what it was on paper?
I did look at one. I'm trying to think of what the right word is, but I did read one of the comics at some point. I think it was like episode 7 or 8. Right. And I was walking around Vancouver, and I happened to pass by this shop, and I walked in, and they had some of the books in. I was like, okay, well, let me just flip through and see what it was, and actually gave me a little bit of insight too, especially for Nightman. Because again, it gave a little bit of backstory and a little bit of history, for him. As well. And I thought, okay, well, this will be helpful potentially, moving forward for us. But so I did get to read, one, it's not an episode, one issue. One issue. Thank you.
Right.
I did read one issue of the comic book.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I mean, you already got in, right? So good enough for you. So now, and wrap this up. Cover all that. If they came to you and said, "Hey, man, we want to bring either Nightman back, to reprise the role," or they want to turn around and I know you're going to take a role as when you take a role, but if you had a dream project, one, would you go back to Nightman if they had to do a reboot or remake of it? And two, what superhero project would you like to be attached to that you've seen exist right now, regardless of whoever it is, whatever, be it if it's Marvel, DC, independent, whoever it is? Is there one movie where you look at it and say, "I would love to play that character," or "I could see myself playing that character," or "I would love to be a part of this series because for some reason it speaks to me," right? Even if it's not a character, but this, how they're filming it, how the stories are going, it appeals to me. Mm-hmm. I can see myself in that.
There are two for me, and it's funny, they're part of the same franchise. Is that I'm a big Captain America fan. I like what Chris Pine has done. Or Chris Evans.
Chris, yeah.
There's Pine, there's Evans, and there's one more. Like and Hemsworth.
Pratt.
Chris Pratt. Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And Hemsworth. Yeah.
I like what he's done with Captain America, but I've watched those movies, and I love that idea. But I also love Falcon. Like I really, I think Anthony Mackie is a great actor, and I like, again, what he's doing with it, but I think that would be a lot of fun, to play with, especially because as the films have progressed, they've developed him, and now obviously he had his own show with Winter Soldier and Falcon, and he's becoming more prominent now. He is actual, Captain America as well. So they've really developed that, for him. But I think those two I think would be fun for me to play and go with.
See, I know you, and that makes sense. Like me knowing you as a person, that makes sense. I can actually see that was something that would capture your eye and lean on, right? Because of the values it represents in there, the action, the little bit of humor with it. That's right up your alley. So, I'll say this. Marvel, DC Plus. Y'all putting on a lot of shows right now, and sometimes he's looking for other actors to join on the thing there. And pretty much because Marvel, Malibu, Disney, y'all kind of inadvertently own some of those characters at Malibu. So,
just saying,
call a brother. I ain't even talking me. Give him
call him.
Call a brother. You know what I mean? He could have been on even She-Hulk, the attorney at law show, because he did study some law. He knows.
Right. He can be in the office.
Right. I'm speaking for Derwin Jordan here at this point. Call him and give him some work, because you will not be disappointed on what this man would do on screen. He's smart, witty, professional, looks good, easy on the eyes for the ladies. You can't go wrong.
I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you. I appreciate you, brother.
Right on, man. I'm telling you, I'm there. I find roles for you, man. I'll find roles for you.
I love it.
But look, on this aspect, I'll say this. We're coming to the end of our show, but one, thank you so much, Derwin, really, for jumping on the show on the Iconis podcast and really sitting here and just talking Nightman and reminiscing on that. It was been a lot of fun. And anytime I get to work with, my best friend, my cousin, it's always like fire in my head. So that is amazing. Rod, any last words before we head out?
Listen, definitely want to say thank you. Appreciate you, Derwin. Thanks for coming on the show. Definitely appreciate you being here. You don't understand the amount of joy this is. It's like, again, this is where was it? We were at Moxie's, or whichever. We're at that restaurant. It's just the three of us just chatting. That's what it is. Put a camera on. That's all this is. We're just putting a camera on. And I'm so happy that you have the opportunity to come and just chill with us tonight. Definitely, as you know, clearly this door is always open. Kick down the door and we'll knock down a wall and bring you in. We'll drag you kicking in, to come back for another show whenever convenient for you.
Oh, yeah.
And, listen, I'm happy that you are still, you can hear the love for this character, for this show, this character coming out from you. And like Barry said, if anyone is looking for a supreme actor to step in and fill out a role, I'm just going to say, no, can't say that particular, because that sounds like BS. Backstreet Jordan will always be there, and we'll just leave it at that.
Wow!
I think I know that. I was fighting the whole time, man. From the beginning.
Back pocket all episode long.
Hold on. I lost the internet. I gotta get internet. I just gotta say these few words, man. Just get me back on. We're back on. Show's on the internet. Oh, what? But everybody, that's an old tag that we all know from back in the days.
Yes, indeed.
Definitely. Yes.
But definitely, you know what? Glad everything is, you're doing well, you're prospering, you're doing well, your career, and I'm happy for you, man. Always just loving saying like, I know him. I really do know him. I really do know him. It's not a lie. I know him. I really do know him. That kind of scenario. So,
absolutely, man.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you. This has been a pleasure. Like when you brought it up, and I'm like, yeah, let's absolutely, do this. So this has been an absolute joy and a pleasure to be on with you guys and watch you guys do your thing, man. Like that's been great. That's been great. I love it. Much success to you two as well. I love it.
Thank you. And I said, Backstreet Jordan, that's a joke because Derwin had a map. Before there's Google Maps, Derwin knew the city of Montreal and Toronto, and he would get you there through all the back roads to avoid traffic. That's where the Backstreet Jordan thing comes up. That's amazing. So, is there a site or anywhere people can find or see your stuff, Derwin? I know, just in general, where if people want to see some of your stuff, where can they see it? I mean, or where can it connect?
They can, I mean, I have a website, derwinjordan.com, is where anything updated and new is at. Usually you can find stuff on IMDb as well. I've got my page up on IMDb, as well. You can Google me, as well. If you Google Derwin Jordan, it's funny. There is another Derwin Jordan, but it's Jordan Derwin. He's an older dude who's actually passed away years ago. And and stuff, so don't get us confused.
I'm still here.
He had like 3 credits. He actually was an actor, and he did background stuff and whatnot. But my website, derwinjordan.com. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram, as well. So, and IMDb. So yeah, my stuff is floating out there, whatnot. So keep looking, because I'm gonna keep coming.
Good. As I said, once again, thank you everyone for tuning in. This has been the Iconist podcast, and the icon is Nightman with special guest Derwin Jordan, and much love for him joining us today. And I always say, remember, this whole world was started by a pencil, a piece of paper, and lots of imagination. Keep on dreaming.
Let's go. Night vision on. Night vision on. Belt, float.
My daughter's going for my wallet. No!
I'll just float this way. I just knocked over something. I don't know what I knocked over. Oh, yeah. Sorry about that.